Hello, hello. Welcome to the Five Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. I interview the top commercial real estate investors and industry experts so you can learn from their experiences. So if you're an investor, a high W-2 earner, or real estate or tech sales professional that wants to invest in real estate without having to manage properties or leave your day job, then this podcast is for you. Or if you're already investing in real estate, but you're doing it part-time and you want to become a full-time multifamily or full-time commercial real estate investor, this podcast is for you too. You're going to learn a ton. You will learn from real-life multifamily investors and other professionals in the industry. They're going to share their blueprints for success, and I'm super excited that you're here. So I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, hello. Abel Pacheco here with the Five Talents Podcast, where we talk about multifamily, commercial real estate, passive investing, mindset on how to take action, among various other topics. So we're excited, super excited today to have a special guest of ours, Mr. Omar Khan. Omar, thanks for joining us, brother.
Hey, thank you, Abel. Thank you for inviting me to your show.
Yeah, man, it's going to be an awesome show. And if you are listening in your car, we'll give you a pass. But if you're in your house, you need to grab a pen, piece of paper, take some notes. I know Omar will drop a few nuggets. I've heard him
if you're in your car, you can always park on the side of the road.
Right? Pull right over for him, man.
Pull right over, touch your phone, start writing.
Is probably worth it. I've heard you more than a couple times, and in our conversations through the last years, I've definitely learned some nuggets here and there, so I'm excited. Well, for those that don't know Omar, you're a CFA charter holder, 10 years investing across real estate and commodities. I'm going to let you explain the CFA charter part, but I understand it's a pretty freaking intensive, very select few of people in the financial world across, the globe really that have achieved that. So that's pretty special. You've advised on $3.7 billion of capital financing and M&A transactions of mergers and acquisitions. You've syndicated large multi-million-dollar deals across the U.S. And you're also an advisor, like for high net worth advisors and entrepreneurs, real estate portfolio allocations. You're a global citizen. Man, you lived in Dubai, Toronto, Calgary, Dallas. Man, I'm excited to jump into the show, man. Why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and what you're doing now. That'd be awesome.
Well, look, I can start off by what I'm doing right now. I'm primarily involved in multifamily real estate, but, I do my own investments and private equity side in various niches that I don't syndicate out, but those are our internal investments. Like how I got into this was that I moved to the US from Canada a few years ago. And initially, look, my family's been involved for the past 3 generations in commercial real estate, not as their main line of business, but a significant portion of our holdings.
Are you the 4th generation or are you the 3rd
Well, I
generation?
think I'll be the 4th one now, right?
Awesome.
So, but again, it wasn't like our business. You just have a significant portion of your holdings there. So I was very comfortable in both the operational side, understanding how deals are structured from a personal experience, but also from a professional experience, seeing how very complex and much larger deals on the institutional side are structured. So when I moved out to the US, between my wife and I at that time, which was a few years ago, we were comfortably paying in the 6 figures in taxes. And look, well, that's a good problem to have, because anytime somebody asks you, do you want to pay more in taxes? That's a trick question. You should always say yes, because that means you're making more money. Right?
That was my mindset for years and years and years. I always said, man, I'm paying more taxes. That's great. That's a great thing.
Well, if you are a W-2 employee, right?
Yes.
So that's a trick question. If you're a W-2 employee, that's a great thing, because you're probably paying more money. That's the only way you're going to get taxed more, right?
Yep.
But I realized, because of my personal and professional backgrounds, but also otherwise also I was at a stage in life where I wanted to do my own things, that, man, this freaking sucks. 6 figures in taxes and I'm like 31. This freaking sucks. It's a nice problem, but a bad one at the same time.
And your wife made decent money too. I heard she's a pediatrician.
She's a physician. I mean, pediatricians don't make a crazy amount of money, but I mean, it beats not making money. Let's put it that way.
100%.
Let's put it that way. It beats not making money. We're very blessed by the grace of God. So based on personal private experiences, and coincidentally at that time, a buddy of mine, they run a small family hospice out of Toronto, because I went to school there, is an old friend of mine. He gave me a call and said, well, you're in Dallas. I'm coming down to Houston. We want to reorganize some of our office and retail portfolio there. They own about about 90, $120 million, give or take. Basically, they were doing some estate planning and stuff. So I kind of went down there, helped the guy, tried reorging everything together for them. That was successful. And coincidentally, I also knew about the tax benefits of real estate. So that kind of gave me a start, just the push at the right time.
Yeah.
And then, you take, one foot. And I always tell people, especially people who are not in Texas specifically, that I love Texas. I am sad that I didn't move to Texas so many years before earlier, but I tried getting here as quickly as possible because I just feel Texas has the right combination of opportunity because the economy is so big. But in our particular case, we feel so blessed that we've met so many people who opened so many doors for us, right? I mean, you still have to walk through the door, but somebody's got to open the door for you, right? So it was a combination of being at the right place at the right time, having the right sets of experiences, having the right set of personal and professional experiences, but then knowing what I wanted to do, because say if I tried doing this, say 5 or 10 years earlier, I didn't have the set of professional experiences, at least, to stand out and kind of just hit the ground running. So it was a combination of factors.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tremendous, I've heard you talk about that story, or that, I guess friends, family that you were kind of working on the portfolio. And then just through all of that, you're like, hey man, why don't I leverage a lot of this experience and expertise and kind of get going on the real estate side?
When you open one, when you take one step, then you take one step after that. And when you look back, you think, oh my God, there were like 15 steps, but at that time, you're only thinking about one step at a time.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, hey, so before we kind of dig into, because I really want to ask you about underwriting and asset management on the multifamily, I think it's pertinent, especially with your expertise on the finance side. What is that CFA charter holder? So maybe explain that for our listeners. Like it's a lot of stuff that you went through just to get certified, man. So
look, realistically, it just means that I spent most of my 20s chained to a desk working 80 to 100 hours a week at my job, and another 30 to 40 weeks basically studying for these exams. And then it's kind of both. You got to study for the exams, pass them, which are very rigorous, but you also need the right set of experiences, because it's not just passing the exams. Because you could pass all the exams, you don't have the right set of experiences, they don't approve you, it doesn't really work. Right? Basically what it means is chartered financial analyst. It's basically the gold standard in portfolio management and money management and investment management. So basically, let's say if you're a big investment manager, typically, in some cases, actually, it's by law that you need to be a CFA charter holder, because that gives you a lot of these experiences. You don't have to be, but some people have that mandate. What attracted me to it was that a lot of folks in my class were beginning to do it, and the failure rate in this was so high that I thought, well, shit, if I pass this somehow, I don't know how, just the fact that so many people fail might help me stand out just because I passed it. And luckily for me, I did at a young age, because I don't think I could do it now with 2 kids.
Yeah.
So it was, I had, my suggestion to anybody thinking about doing any of these things, CFAs, whatever it is, PhDs, do it at a young age, because my God, if I had 2 kids, I would never be able to get it done.
Yeah, that was in your 20s, and I can imagine you're grinding. It's a way different lifestyle.
Yeah, but you can do it when you're single, right? You can't do it when you got a family and kids and this and that. It's
man, it's different life. I have a 2.5-year-old and a 1-year-old right now, and I thought I had no time before, and I'm realizing no, I don't have any time now, and I can't imagine people with 4 to 5 kids, like they really have no time. It's a different lifestyle.
I can't even imagine having 5 kids. And I don't know what I'd do, but I'd change my identity pretty quickly.
There goes Omar. He's off the map. He left his
assets. I'm not Omar anymore.
He left his assets, man, behind.
Yeah, I don't care about assets.
So you take the CFA, man, and that's a good breakdown, because it's a lot of financial information, education, but also about doing. So tell me how that prepared you for, like, for what you're doing today at multifamily. You've took that first step. Now you're on second, third, fourth, 15th step. How does that translate?
Look, what it does is it basically provides you a very deep, granular understanding of the various moving components. Okay, number one. Because look, if you're doing things at scale, and by the way, it doesn't matter if you're doing it real estate, manufacturing, whatever business you're doing at scale.
Sure.
Eventually, if you're the CEO or the managing partner or principal, it stops being just about that business,
Mhm.
And there's a lot of other things that come into being, like how do you get the right loans? How do you structure your right deal? How does the accounting work? How do all of these things work together in terms of investment management? Where do you allocate your capital? Or like everyone, we can allocate our capital, but sometimes we make mistakes along the way. So when do you basically cut the cord? You have to look at these things very, I don't like to use the word callous, but you have to look at these very callously in the sense that there is no emotion involved, right? Just because, look, a lot of times we just get so caught up in the previous decisions we've made, we get so emotionally invested in them that we are unable to take that step, say, okay, I made a mistake, let's just cut it, move on. Mistakes happen so it's just a very good holistic understanding. And look, it's like any other business, right? If you have a holistic understanding, a lot of times you're able to at least see around the corner, or at least you're able to see a problem before it becomes a problem, right? And obviously, look, you're learning, so you never 100% know, you're always learning.
Sure.
Or what also happens is a lot of times you're able to pick up newer things in that industry quicker, just because you have such a solid base, which is not like just one thing. I just know this one thing and that's it.
Yeah.
Because you have such a wide base and you have taken so much work on it at such a high level, basically, right? That it's like, say, let's put it this way. It's like you're an NBA player, right? Now you might be a point guard, but if you played in the NBA, you have such a strong understanding of the game that you could be taken out of the game and you can still understand, okay, what is the guard going to do? What is the forward going to do? What is the center forward going to do? You just see these things because that's your business.
Yep.
That's basically what it entails.
Yeah, it's a good breakdown, I think, because what two of the things that I think are hardest, what you mentioned, is one, to realize we probably made a mistake here.
And by the way, everyone does that, by the way. Even the sharpest people in the world do it.
Yeah.
We do it all the time.
Yeah. And then the second one is, how do I know when I should just cut bait here and then move to this next thing? And those two things are pretty hard, to kind of to analyze. So that makes a lot of sense. So tell us, so what are you doing today, man? Give us an update and tell us about, one, specifically multifamily. And, I know you have some good views on the market, the economy, how you guys are doing deals today. I'd love, a current update.
Well, look, we're to be honest with you, our process has been entirely the same. It's actually very surprising to me that I was hearing a lot of people when COVID came out saying, well, we're playing defense now. And I was like, wow, that's really freaking stupid, dude, because why weren't you playing defense before? Like, what kind of championship winning team doesn't play defense?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you don't see a team just say, for instance, okay, I'm only going to focus on offense and I don't really care what the other team does.
Hey, offense wins games, but defense wins championships.
Right?
Yep.
So it's really shocking and / funny. A lot of guys are saying these things. Oh, we're playing defense now. And for us, look, we invest our own money into our deals. Nothing's changed, to be very honest with you. Everybody keeps talking about how my underwriting's changed, this and this changed, that changed. And look, minor adjustments happen because you have to do that during the course of the year even. Sure. But nothing substantial has changed. We are staying conservative. We are basically, basically ensuring that we promise the least and deliver the most.
Yeah.
Right. And that hasn't changed. That didn't change during the good times. That didn't change. And that's not changing during the bad times. The problem with this is a lot of guys who tell you now they're playing defense or now they've changed this. The problem with all these clowns is that during the good times, they keep overpaying for all these deals because they think more deals is equal to better.
Yeah.
And when the bad times come, they either have to suspend their distributions, which most of these guys do, right? But they never suspend taking asset management fees. They all take asset management fees, but they'll always suspend distributions to investors. Or they'll just basically say, well, I didn't really put my own money into this, so why do I care?
Yeah.
Right. So you never want to be with those types of people. So you always want to be with somebody who's always playing defense. Because look, if you take care of the downside, like the upside takes care of itself. Look, we're in America, guys. This country is 250 years of nothing but net. Okay? Straight up. Nothing but net. So you just got to make sure you're always in the game. You're taking care of your downside. You're protecting your hard-earned investor capital. Mm-hmm. And the upside takes care of itself.
Yeah. There's more than a few nuggets there. But I've been in, the professional world for like 13 years, IT sales, and we've had some tremendous runs, millions of dollars of acquisitions, right? But one of the foundation, the principles, the core, is exactly what you said. It's just under promise and over deliver, right? You've got to do that. And the way you said it, you've remained conservative. It's not like you started becoming conservative. You took a conservative approach before. You want to make sure it's a conservative approach now. Minor tweaks here and there, maybe, et cetera, et cetera. But we'll dig into the et cetera in a minute. But yeah, that's spot on. So I know you have a great explanation, a great mindset for like underwriting deals, and how do I find a gem? How do I know this is a really good deal? And I think we have some listeners that are probably both passive investors and maybe new general partners, somebody that's trying to break in the world. So can you like walk us through, hey, you get an OM, you talk to a broker, I'm sure you analyze, countless numbers before you pull the trigger. Walk us through that process. Like how do you actually do that? Maybe the beginning of the process here.
Look, so it's very different. I'm going to talk with the GP first and then the passive instead of passive plus GP.
Sure.
It's a very different process for the GPs or the asset managers versus passive investors. So starting off as the asset manager, the general partner. Look, I'll give you an example. There is no way humanly possible that you can say, for instance, people say, I want to look at all multifamily deals, as an example, San Antonio. And that is the dumbest thing in the world you could do. As an example, let's assume you pick San Antonio as your market. I'll give you an example. We're in Atlanta, right? But Atlanta's a big city, like a lot of big cities, right? We're not in all pockets of Atlanta, and we don't want to be in all pockets of Atlanta. We have chosen certain submarkets. Now, we can go into details why we've chosen that submarket or those submarkets. But first of all, before you decide to look into numbers, before you decide to underwrite, before you decide to do all these stupid things, you got to decide, what do I want to do? What kind of resident, at least in multifamily, do I want to have? And where does that particular type of resident or that particular type of property exist? Like, what are the common characteristics? So in our particular case, we wanted to be in areas where the median income was over $60,000, $55,000, $60,000, right? Okay. Good schools. Now, good is a relative term, at least 7-ish, going in that direction, right? Then we wanted to be in areas where, for instance, there was basically the average house was at least $250,000, $300,000, right? Mm-hmm. Because that gives us a buffer between where we are as rents, because the person who's renting can't just immediately go and buy a house because the houses are so cheap, right? Mm-hmm. But good schools and high median incomes at the bare minimum. There's a lot of other factors, but those were, which basically, if you take a look at all the submarkets in any city, you will dramatically reduce the amount of basically submarkets. So think of it as top of the funnel. All the submarkets in a market, right? You put your little funnel here saying, in our case, median income, school districts, and the pricing of houses. That dramatically goes to the bottom of the funnel, reduces the amount of submarkets you have. Anything outside of these submarkets, please don't even look at it, right? It doesn't matter. I know everybody says, oh, well, but that deal was so cheap and this. No, everything else outside of that investment perimeter is noise.
Yeah, yeah.
And the more you chase your tail, the worse your life will become. So you have to be comfortable with, quote unquote, letting go of deals that are not fitting your investment criteria. Mm-hmm. Right? Because there's so many
it's
deals.
So hard too, because we get all excited, or I'll speak for myself. I get excited, I chase, as they say, the shiny object, and, you start to get pulled in different directions, but this is a clear indicator, a clear focus area. And, first question, is it in my submarket that I'm looking at? No. Okay. I can move on.
Yeah. So now you moved on, right? So now basically you decide, okay, it's insane. Maybe you have, say, 5, say, submarkets you like in this particular city for whatever reasons. So you've ranked those submarkets, right? Hopefully you ranked them, right? Or you've given some sort of order to these submarkets, right? Mm-hmm. Now let's assume a deal comes in, passes through that first filter. Then basically a second filter could be, if you want to do value add, you basically see, well, what is the rent upside here or not? Because if there is no rent upside, no amount of you doing value add is going to save you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If there is no rent upside, 9 times out of 10 just pass, okay? If you're starting out, you're one of those GPs, you don't have a big team, right? If there is rent upside, how much is the rent upside? If it's $20, I don't know if that's enough, but maybe if you want $50, $100, now you're looking at something, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the second filter after your initial filter. Now you have rent upside. Now, again, you realize you're not really underwriting anything here. You see, all of these things, you haven't really underwritten anything. You haven't done massive amounts of work. And by the way, anyone in the world can do this.
You're just creating your filter first.
Yeah, it's all of these are filters, right? It's like when you're looking in a database, right? You don't start by typing the exact thing you want. You just put all these filters in and it gives you a data set, right? Now you basically seen what is the rent upside or not. Then, for instance, you can say, let's do, you open the T12, right? And in the T12, you can see what is my operating expense ratio, what is the economic vacancy, to see, hey, what's the story here, right? Is there a lot of economic vacancy? Well, why is the economic vacancy? You can ask the question. Or it's very running very high or being very lean. That kind of gives you an idea. No underwriting. Boom, done. Pick up the phone. If it passes all these filters, talk to the broker and ask them some intelligent questions. Okay, I'm seeing this. Well, what are you seeing? Blah, 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 blah. If it passes through those filters again, right? Now you set up a property tour. Go and do the property tour. The thing is, you have to, you gotta have to know what's going on. But basically, if you understand the comp set and you understand the rent upside, that's about 80% of the stuff you need to know before you even start underwriting. Tour the property. Now that you toured the property,
you said the comp. Sorry,
comp set.
Comp set. Yeah, the comparables. What the other apartment complexes in the area. What was the second thing you said?
Tour the property.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Just tour the property. Now you know a good portion of it.
Yeah.
Tour the property, and while you're at the property, before or after, just go tour the other comps. You don't have to spend like hours at these comps. Just
drive around, walk around. Yeah.
Just drive around.
Parking lot time. Yep.
Yeah. Now you kind of have a visual, trust me, visually it matters a lot. Right now you kind of have a visual idea what's going on. Maybe say a property that's getting $200 more in rent. Well, maybe it's like 20 years newer and it's got all these nice things. Well, that's not really a comp then, even though they might be right next to each other, right? So now you kind of have some knowledge. Now you can start going. If you're still interested and it's passed through these 3 or 4 filters, now you start going and crunching through the numbers to see if it's worthwhile or not. Because why in God's name would you want to underwrite, kill yourself doing all of this stuff when it doesn't even pass through all these filters? And by the way, it doesn't take too long to filter through all of these things, right? Rent upside might take you 30 minutes. The initial understanding of, hey, does it fit my submarket should take you like less than a minute, right? So in about 15, 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, you've done 90% of the work. So why even bother underwriting if it doesn't go through all of these things?
Yeah.
Right. So that's for the general partners. Now for
great. It's great, by the way. Just even creating your filter. A lot of people, when you're talking to a broker, for example, a lot of the new GPs ask me, well, how do I, tell them what I'm looking for? And you're like, well, it's like, if you don't have your submarkets or kind of your filters to share with the broker, then it's kind of like if you're looking for a single family house and you're saying, I want to buy a house. I just want a good deal. The best one, like the realtor knows nothing, I want in San Antonio. I want to be in San Antonio. Okay. A little bit more, but yes, these are good filters you're also sharing with the brokers.
As a passive investor though, I can tell you 99% of the work you're going to do is just vetting the sponsor. Okay. Forget about the deal. I know it's very counterintuitive. Everybody says, oh, look at the deal. Forget about it. Screw that.
Forget about the deal.
You're going to have to look at the quality of the sponsor. Does this person have a track record? And now some sponsor might say, well, how would I get started if everybody starts asking me that question? And you know what? The answer to that is tough shit. That's your problem. You go figure it out.
I love it.
It's your problem, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the investor's problem. The investor isn't your mom. They shouldn't be going to, putting their capital at risk when you don't know your head from your ass, right?
Yeah.
So basically, the first thing you got to do as an investor is vet the team. Now, typically I tell people, and a lot of people take this the wrong way, if this person ever says they belong to a mentorship group, please run the hell away from that person. This probably means that guy has no idea about operations. 99% of the time, this means this person has no idea about operations and he's going to take your money and learn on your dime.
Yeah, I've heard you say this. I've heard you say it a couple of times.
But you know this as well. I mean, this is not a surprise. You know this.
Yeah.
So look, if you are really that charitable, it is better for you to go either give your money to the homeless or go to your church and donate your money.
Yeah.
But please don't do these kind of things with your money, number one. So that track record is very important, and track record in the market, because it's no use having a track record in San Antonio if you want to go to Florida.
Yeah.
Different markets, different people, all of that. Then what is the bench strength of that team, right? Because if it's a one-man show, this is not a one-man show business, right? So you kind of need multiple people, multiple partners. And basically, those are the three big things. Then and only then should you look at the deal. Because to be very honest with you, you can have a really crappy deal and a really good sponsor might not be able to give you a home run, but they'll be able to salvage the deal, right?
Yeah.
But you can have a really good deal that's going to be run into the ground by some newbie who has no idea what they're doing. And
Yeah.
these days, specifically, everybody's got such a pretty website and all of the newsletter things and everything that people can talk a big game, but you know this, there's a difference between talking a big game and walking a big game.
Yeah. Hello. You're listening to the 5 Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. If you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you're serious about achieving financial freedom. Are you ready to create your own path through multifamily investing for yourself and your family? Then I know you're going to appreciate our Investor's Guide to Multifamily Investing. It's titled Tackling Commercial Real Estate the Easy Way. We use this guide to invest ourselves in $93 million worth of real estate. So we're going to show you the basic mechanics of multifamily syndications and how to evaluate your next passive investment opportunity. So the best part, if you subscribe to our podcast now, leave us a review and a rating. I'm going to give you a free copy of our ebook. So please take a moment to do that now. Once you've done that, go to 5tcre.com/ebook, 5tcre.com/ebook. Make sure to let us know you left a review and we're going to send you a free copy. So thank you so much for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast. We really appreciate it. You know, having the for those listeners, right? Having the operational experience can literally be the difference between, you know, the success or failure on the project, and seeing it on paper and your pro forma, your analysis between, you know, somebody that's like, no, I've successfully handled the contract management. I'm a good project manager. I can enable the team to have success on certain number of interior unit improvements every month, like clockwork. And I've been in the grind. And then somebody who has, you know, never done it before, like you're saying, Omar. And so I think that's fantastic. And then I'll give a nugget though for the new general partners. And I'd like to hear your comment on this too, Omar. So for those general partners that have no track record, I think your point hits like dead on, right? Man, hey, that's your fault. So one of the ways you can build a track record is don't try to do this stuff on your own.
Yeah, have a team.
I
have a team. Everybody has a team.
Yeah, you partner with a team that has successful track record, has good experience. They've proven themselves. You vet them. You've got a lot of stuff to vet as a partner, but that's one of the way. That's how I got started on my first. You know, even now I'm on like 3 or 4 deals in, and I still don't try. I'm not doing it on my own today. Tomorrow it's a different story for me because I feel like I've built up that, you know, but man, give us your thoughts on that. I mean, general partners.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And a lot of guys say, well, I want more money. I was like, well, 100% of 0 is 0. And 1% or 0.5% of 100 is a lot more than 100% of 0. So look, on your first deal, it's one of those conundrums in life. The people you want to work with don't have time to work with you because they're too busy with their own thing. And the people who want to work with you starting out are definitely not the people you want to work with. So I know it's very common to say we're going to be collaborative, we're going to group and work together and put our heads together. But the problem is, as an example, look, I mean, you can have 5 of me and 5 of you, and don't take this the wrong way, no offense, because I don't take offense to this. I'm not going to replicate what Elon Musk does. It's just not going to happen. You can have 100 of me. Because that guy has a particular skill set, and no amount of me thinking positively is going to overcome this problem. Like, I can think positively all day freaking long, and I'm not going to build an electric car or rocket ship. It's just not going to happen. So it's not just thinking positively and being all, you know, singing Kumbaya. It's being involved with people who have that level of competence. And look, shit, man, you got to work for free. Work for free. Who gives a crap?
Yeah.
Just begin the process. And learn from the best. If you learn from the best, trust me, long term, they are doing you a favor. You're not doing them a favor.
Yeah, absolutely. So here are a couple, you know, jumping points, which I think would be valuable for listeners to hear too. Vetting good partners, like people you want to go work with. You're the guy trying to get in there.
It's very hard to do because till you don't get into a partnership, you don't really know.
Yep.
So it's very hard to do.
So vetting that partner, and then, you know, your sources of education, your sources of, you know, experience. There's no, you know, there's nothing better than experience. However, how to obtain those cycles, how to, get involved. I went through like 5 programs. I've gone through multiple different masterminds, spend a ton, like 200 plus hours of education. Then I'm trying to go do at the same time. So I'd love to hear your insight on those two: vetting good partners and then education to like actually, get skilled and make sure that you're an expert in the deal at some point in your career.
Look, vetting the good partners, I don't have a good answer to, because that is one of those age-old questions, which, by the way, even people who are way more experienced, way more wiser, way more successful than I have problems with. Yeah. And they say it all the time, because you can have good partners for 20 years and then things happen and partnerships break, or you think one person is like this, but they turn out to be completely else. And by the way, I've made that mistake. Everybody I know in some shape or capacity has made that mistake. Okay, so I don't have a good answer to that, but again, you just have to be very aware of this thing, right? A lot of times people say, "Oh, I should just get into a partnership," and no, because a lot of guys go to seminars and all these guys are trying to sell you their products. Be very careful, because that is a step you should be taking, say, the most amount of time. And even though it's such a small, inconsequential thing, you can just say yes and move on. Trust me, long term, it becomes a pain. And trust me, I've learned this the hard way.
It's kind of like getting married after a first 2 or 3 dates. You're like, well, you better know this person pretty dang well.
Yeah, or look, if you're successful, that doesn't mean your process was good. It just means because you're lucky. Because there are some people who decide to get married after the first date, and there's 2 people out there, but there's like 500 people who got divorced. Right?
Yep.
So that's number 1, basically.
Okay. Well, before you move on, for those listeners, here's some very basic ones that I've found myself is when you're partnering, just think about the very basics of like business. Are you a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 employee somewhere?
That's such a good point.
And you can't take a call during the week, and then somebody else is like complete opposite. They're weekends and nights, and you want to do business during the day, and they want to do business at night. Just those basic ones. Just keep that in mind.
That's such a good point, actually. And a lot of these things don't happen at the start.
Yeah.
If you're not aware of them, they will happen. And it becomes it just wears on you, right? So, so that's okay. And what was the other thing you wanted to talk about?
So it's vetting the partnership, and which, thank you very much for the insight. And the second one was like education, right? So you're kind of, I've heard you multiple times, and we've talked about this, right? The against, maybe the person that doesn't have a good track record, and you're trying to learn from them. And that's, real estate seminars. Like how do I know?
Name me one guy who runs a real estate seminar. Look, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
Okay? Look, this is not a political comment.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump does not give you weekend seminars at the airport Sheraton on how to get rich or investing in development. Okay. Stephen Ross does not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There is a reason why this is such a lucrative business, by the way. I'm going to be very honest with you. Commercial real estate is a very lucrative business. Okay. So people who are really crushing it, they don't have time to go to the airport Sheraton and teach you about thinking properly. They're too busy making real money. Okay. So all the hangers on, all the losers who couldn't make money doing this are now going to tell you, well, you take my program, you're going to learn how to do this. Okay, let's just be very clear. Let's call a spade a spade. Okay, this doesn't mean everybody's evil. What I'm just trying to say is just be aware of this fact going into this thing. And look, you can learn things we can all learn things from everyone, right? But be aware of this fact going in, that the guy you see on the stage, whatever, wearing a nice shiny suit or whatever, with a slick back hair, isn't what he claims to be. Because if he was talk shit, he wouldn't be here. He'd be too busy making money.
And so that in that mindset, right, I want to make sure people understand, man, you've had probably plenty of mentors, plenty of.
Oh yeah, I have lots of mentors. Yeah.
So kind of explain that, like, how do I know which people to listen to, and source the right education, source the right mentorship, source the right avenues or track to go down, so I can say, man, this is the route I need to take.
Well, look, I'll give you an example. In real estate, you should listen to people who've actually done the work and not people who are talking about doing the work. So, a lot of guys, look, in every city, there's developers, very successful syndicators, very successful people in all areas of life. Try to go find those people.
Mm.
Try to develop a relationship with them. I know it's not easy. It's hard. Why would somebody talk to you? But I can tell you this. I have lived in multiple countries in multiple cities. When I moved down here, I didn't know a person. Okay. Successful people typically are not insecure people. Typically. Now, they might be time stressed and you might catch them at a wrong time and things don't work out.
Yeah.
But typically, successful people who've done it the right way want to help other people. You just have to provide them a compelling enough reason. Now, don't say, oh, I love you. I just want to talk to you for 5 minutes. Have a reason for talking. Look, let's see, guy's a big developer, right? You're like, look, on 28, I've developed whatever, 80 houses. I want to take the next step. And I knew, because I was researching about you, that when you were 29, you did this $130 million deal that you yourself have said multiple times changed the trajectory of your career. Or that was like the one thing that shifted. Or you went from San Antonio to Austin, did these 5 deals, because that shows A, you've researched. So this is not some bullshit hokey pokey thing.
Mm-hmm.
But B, you're actually genuinely interested in somebody. So now, trust me, most successful people want to reciprocate because they've been there. They've done the hard yards. They know how much it freaking sucks to get all those no's and still keep trudging on. They want to help, but they can only open the door for you. You still have to walk through the door.
Yep.
And by the way, these people are in every city. So it's not like these people are only in New York or LA or Dallas. Every single city has successful people that you should start there. See what kind of habits do they have? How do they present themselves? What do they do? What do they talk about? Where do they go? And start modeling yourself after them, right? And look, it's a slow process, but it sure as hell beats learning from a charlatan, right? Or somebody, a faker, because these people are genuine people.
I joined one program, my first program, and I didn't ask enough questions, and it led me down to a path of a lot of education, but it didn't have the expertise of people doing multifamily syndications, which I originally thought that's what this whole program was. And it was just like, it was different with single family stuff. And I go, I made a huge mistake. But I applied, literally what Omar just said is I looked for mentors and coaches, education sources of people that have actually done what I wanted to do. And then I looked at people that, were 10 times, 10x the success that I thought I wanted. And I would go try to learn as much as I could from them. But then I would look for somebody 2 or 3 steps ahead of me, and then a peer group. And then, I've kind of put that around, me today. And so I think that's a great asset.
See things start opening up for you. The first step is always the hardest.
Yep.
But once you start getting into that habit, you'll see that it's not as bad as it sounds, or as hard as it sounds.
Absolutely. So I do have a few more questions before we go, but while we're here on this point, where do people go to get into your world if they want to talk to you guys a little bit more about, potentially investing or partnering or whatever the case may be? Where can we go to follow you more?
Well, I'm not really that interested in partnerships. We've got our own partners, luckily enough. But if somebody wants to talk about investing or how I can help them in any capacity, even if they're not investing in our projects, you can email us at info@boardwalkwealth.com. So that's BOARD, walkwealth.com, one word. And again, I'd be happy to help, even if it's not my own project. If there's some insight I can provide that can help you, I'd be happy to do it, because like I said at the start, so many people have been so generous to me in my life that, I'm just getting started. I'm 34. Yeah, I'm 34. And I hope I don't die early. I've got a long life ahead of me. And I just want to, pass on the good vibes.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for the offer. Hopefully some of our listeners take you up on it, and that'd be cool to have the opportunity to give back. So on that note of giving back, how do you like to give back? How do you like to help others? How do you like to, to sow those goodness seeds everywhere?
Well, I just want to make sure that I do my job really freaking well. So make my investors a lot of money, right? So I follow through on my commitments, and then all the plans they have had with that money, putting their kids through college, taking the vacation, retiring earlier or better in better circumstances, all of those things are happening.
Yeah.
That's how I give back.
It's something special to be a good financial steward. More than just an advisor, but you caring about people, and everyone has their own dreams, desires, goals. And if you can help them meet those with the financial part of it, man, that's the goodness right there.
Yeah.
It's good. Before we go, is there any topic, anything I didn't ask you about, anything that you wanted to highlight, bring some exposure to, or good nuggets of wisdom, before we go, and wanted to give you enough time to break into this topic if you wanted to?
No, nothing particular. Look, like I said, this is like any other business. People pretend it's like, oh my God, it's so hard or unique or whatever. Look, real estate is like any other business. Okay. And just to be honest with you, the top 10 richest people in the world are not real estate investors. Okay. So there's a reason for that. There's a lot more lucrative businesses out there. Right. But what I try to say is lots of common successful people across industries, across countries have things in common. They're disciplined. They put one step after the other. They conservatively approach their, whatever problem they're facing. They have a wide and long-term lens, right? And then they keep chipping away at their target because it sucks. I mean, every time you get a no, a deal doesn't work, something doesn't happen. It sucks. It's painful. We've all been there. And we all go through it every day, but it's all about continuing to chip away at your target, and hopefully in the long run, you're able to be successful, but then also help other people along the way.
Yeah, that's great. That's good stuff, Omar. I really appreciate your time, and thank you very much for giving back and taking the time to interview here. I know a lot of people got some good nuggets. I took a couple pages of notes myself, so thank you. And I guess that so it's a great show, man. Thank you very much for everything that you do.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
So we'll leave for our guest. Again, if you want to reach out to Omar, get into his world, reach out to him directly. I'll put the link to his website and his email address, all that stuff in the show notes. And if you heard something that brought you value today, I know I've got it. Please reach out to Omar. He'd love to hear from you. Leave us a review on our on the podcast, 5 stars, and put a little note for Omar if you like something here. And if you want to reach out to us, we're 5tcre.com is our website, 5 Talents Commercial Real Estate. We'd love to help you guys as well if you're interested in learning more about your education, learning more about multifamily investments. So thank you very much. Abel Pacheco, I'm your host, and appreciate your time. Omar, thanks, man. Awesome show. All right, brother. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the 5 Talents Podcast with your host, myself, Abel Pacheco. Each week, we're going to bring you interviews from industry experts and commercial real estate investors who followed their dreams and achieved massive success. Before you leave, let me ask you a few questions. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you learn something valuable? Was your mind stretched to what's possible and what you can achieve? Do you want other experts just like the one you heard today? If you answered yes to any or all of those questions, then please take a moment to subscribe to the 5 Talents Podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, leave us a written review. Tell us what you liked, tell us your favorite guest, give us any feedback. I'm excited to learn and improve so you can get a more valuable show. So thank you again for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast.